And then we just, yes, we have to, one there and one there. Now you warmed up, I can see. So, microphone there. We have time for 2 more questions.
Well, as a part of the alternative culture of Gothenburg, I have a strong relationship with the Masthugget area. How did you plan to make the area around Andra Långgatan, Second Long Street, to enhance it and grow? Andra Långgatan is like Camden Street. In how do you plan to enhance the cultural lifestyles?
So when we talk about it, Andra Långgatan is not directly included in this development program, is it? No?
Well,
but it's a place of great commitment. It's a hip street, because a hip street with lots of different shops, happenings like the festival a few weeks ago,
yes,
etc., and a strong sense of belonging, I think, to many people.
Mm.
So how do you keep those places intact? These mixed, spontaneous cultural areas?
I think no place has ever remained the same over time, and that you will find that in a few years' time, other places will become very interesting in Gothenburg in the way that area is now. But I certainly don't see any reason for trying to change it, as it's one of the very nice areas in Gothenburg. So I think that the proposals ought to be much more about trying to make the most of the waterfront in that area, rather than somehow trying to change what is already quite successful.
So it's not directly in this development plan, but it's truly a base of the connectivity, the cultural connectivity of the city. There was another question up front.
My name is Mary Polk, and I'm from Mr. Urban Futures and the University of Gothenburg. And I just want to thank you for this great presentation. It's really inspirational to be here. And I have one question. It has to do with, in order to reach these goals, or reach any kind of strategies, these visions that you presented, we're dealing with a lot of conflicts of interest. And could you just comment on how we're going to deal with, getting the growth we need and creating the, satisfying the business interests that we need and for developing, and not losing our insights into our goals with social equity and environmental conservation.
Keeping all these issues going and developing at the same time. And stakeholders.
There's a lot of conflicts between different interest groups, and can you give a comment upon how we can reach those and not lose sight of them?
I said this is the question, isn't it? But some comment on that. How do you promote sound development and discussion, sticking to long-term goals with short-term strategies? And so are you up to facing that question? I think you are.
Yeah, a little bit. So I think the big conflict is, of course, the port activities and, let's say, this urban development. So that's one thing what we experience from Copenhagen, that you have to solve. And a lot of cities are struggling with this conflict. The economical quality of existing companies and let's say the wish to develop the city. In Copenhagen, I think that it has been solved quite well, in the sense that the port authority is mainly developing land, so they are not dealing with the port anymore. So it might help to take a part of the port authority and to really involve them in the development of the land, so that the interests of the port are guaranteed in the urban development of the site. So that I would suggest to do. And then, of course, if this is run by port, it should not be run by port people, because they are only like this. So it's very important to keep a kind of debate and involvement from the municipality on all levels, and giving place to discussion and opposition and claiming that space from the council.
I would really like a comment here from one of the members of the advisory board, Rob Adams, who has been a driver in the transformation, as I said before, of Melbourne, which obviously involves stakeholder management, I must say. What's the trick, Rob? Because you have been extremely, unsurpassedly successful. How does one promote communication? How do we move this forward?
I think the important thing is the vision has to be strong enough that the citizens embrace it. It's a political process as much as a design process. If you can't get the politicians to embrace the concept that you come up with and to carry it not just for the 3 or 4 years that they're in office, but for 20 years, then it's going to be very hard to actually reconcile the interest between shipping, the city, and the various conflicts of interest that you get. So I think the important thing is to start getting the community engaged. I think this process is the start of that. The fact that we can now put this on systems that maybe aren't the town hall meetings, they are the subcultures of blogging and the net and other systems, and really get the community behind the future Gothenburg. So I think it's as much a political exercise as it is a design exercise.
What was your greatest challenge in making this communication working model?
I think the greatest challenge is that politicians are only there sometimes for 3 or 4 years. And the vision has to be a 20, 30-year vision. So I think it has to be explained in terms that it's carried past each political cycle. And I think the secret to that is it has to be a solution of this city. It can't be something that you try and import from somewhere else. It has to be something that people value of this city. The gentleman up the back obviously values his area when he talked about the long street and what happens there. If you can actually build your strategy around those values, then they will carry through the different political cycles.
Thank you. So, your advice, very briefly, to the city. What is your advice? Quickly. You have 30 seconds each. 30 seconds each.
Yeah, well, our advice is to feel well with the site. This is very important. Very, very important is that the city feels that that the city is the city, that the infrastructural complexity is something which should be territorial and not urban. This is, I think, with the changing of the harbour and with this comprehension that the city is one and not many, and that the barriers have to go away, I think you would advance a lot.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I think so.
I have almost an opposite advice.
Oh, that's why you're here, not to question things, I think,
The danger is that we all start to think in bridges and big infrastructural investments. And before you know, all the money is going to those infrastructures. And I would say make small steps and try to make success on a very small scale. The land that is available is enormous, and you have to make small parts that you can finish, so that you all the time feel that this is a finished piece of city development. We see it in Rotterdam, we have such an area that you have in Gothenburg as well, and it's all the time unfinished, and this is horrible for the market. Now the market collapsed, and the city is in big trouble. So make small steps.
Yeah, that.
Right. I mean, I think that the main thing is that some of you people who are here today and who have, showed up on a Saturday and who have thoughts like you were talking about before, the area you're in, for the city to actually make it feel as if people can act and influence things. One of the things that I have come across here is that people actually don't feel that they can influence the city and that things are changing over their heads somehow. And I think that's the biggest danger, and I think that's the biggest challenge for the city, and the biggest opportunity for doing this well. And then within that framework, I do think that small steps will be taken. Having said that, though, if a bridge is going to happen, because the other one is not going to last for much longer, then I do think you have to be very ambitious, because I think that is the one thing that is able to make a big difference for this city in terms of connecting north-south.
Thank you. We're bringing these issues further on through the program, but I think we are in need of a break now. So, a round of applause. See you back in here at 11.